A block of frozen lake, somebody's refrigerator. Open your refrigerator, the cold is already waiting. No delivery, no melting block. For almost all of human history, that was fantasy. Cold had to be found, carried, stored, and replaced before it disappeared. And somehow, people preserved harvests for months and made ice in the middle of a desert. So, how did a frozen pond in New England end up being sold by the pound on the other side of the world? Why did a doctor who made ice without a pond die broke, mocked as a crank? And why was it the natural ice, not his machine, that was secretly the dirty one? The answers involve a debtor's prison cell, a pond watched by Henry David Thoreau, and a marketing label you still see on grocery shelves today. Start with the strangest version first. In the Persian desert, around 400 BC, people built enormous domed ice pits called yakhchals, literally ice pits. Their mud brick walls could run up to 6 feet thick, sealed with a mortar of clay, sand, ash, goat hair, and lime. Water arrived through underground canals into shallow, shaded trenches beside the dome, and on clear winter nights, it radiated its heat straight into open sky and froze. No fuel, no fire, nothing burned at all. Some yakhchals also used wind-catching towers to keep air moving through the dome, helping the ice, once made, last stored inside it deep into summer. That was the extreme version of a very ordinary problem. Long before any of that, people were simply digging down. Root cellars, holes cut into hillsides or straight into the earth, held a naturally stable, cool temperature that could keep vegetables, fruit, and pickled food edible for months. Ancient Egyptians dug storage pits to protect grain from the desert heat above ground. Greeks and Romans hauled snow and ice down from nearby mountains by hand, purely to keep meat from turning. And in China, as early as 1100 BC, the Shang Dynasty, people were already cutting ice from rivers and storing it in pits, for food and for chilled drinks. No machine required for any of it, just a hole, a mountain, or, if you were clever and desperate enough, a tower built to trick a desert into making ice for free. Cold was local. It didn't travel until a 22-year-old Boston merchant decided it should. In 1806, Frederick Tudor sent an entire 130-ton shipload of New England pond ice to Martinique in the Caribbean. The Boston Gazette covered it in 3 sentences. No joke, a vessel has cleared at the custom house for Martinique with a cargo of ice. We hope this will not prove a slippery speculation. Almost everyone agreed with the joke. Most of the ice melted in transit, and what survived landed on an island with nowhere to put it. Martinique didn't have a single ice house. Tudor hadn't just failed to sell ice, he'd failed to even figure out how to keep it solid long enough to try. He kept going anyway. Over the next several years, he went broke more than once, jailed for debt on more than one occasion. But by 1815, he'd built a proper double-walled ice house in Havana, holding some 150 tons, more than his entire first shipment. By 1833, his ice was surviving a 4-month voyage to Calcutta and selling out on arrival. By the 1840s, it was reaching Rangoon, Singapore, Hong Kong, Rio de Janeiro. The slippery speculation nobody believed in became, worldwide, the Ice King's empire. Tudor didn't just sell ice, he built an industry around it until winter itself became a national harvest. In 1847, roughly 52,000 tons of ice traveled by rail and boat to 28 American cities. That same season, 353 ice-laden ships left Boston Harbor alone. One of those harvests had an eyewitness who wrote it down. Henry David Thoreau, living at Walden Pond that same winter, watched Tudor's crews work the ice for 16 straight days, as many as 100 laborers a day, arriving with horse-drawn saws and plows to cut his pond into blocks. A philosopher watching 100 men mine a frozen lake and writing about it like it was the strangest thing he'd ever seen. It only grew from there. The national harvest reached 8 to 10 million tons a year by 1879, then roughly 25 million by 1886, about 2.5 times as much in 7 years. Ice had become America's second-largest export, behind only cotton, with 2 of every 3 tons going to railroads to keep meat and produce from rotting before the train reached a city. And at the very end of that supply chain, after the cutting, the shipping, the storing, sat a wooden cabinet in your kitchen, the ice box, an insulated box lined with tin, holding 1 block of ice with a pan below to catch the melt. A good block lasted close to a week. To reorder, you didn't knock on anyone's door or say a word. You put a printed card in your window with a number circled, 25, 50, or £100, and the Iceman read the card and left exactly that much in silence. It's the flash forward from the top of this video. A stranger, reading a number, leaving frozen lake water on your step. The work was brutal. Icemen started as early as 4 in the morning and continued until 8 or 9 at night, including holidays. Across each city, they hauled tonged blocks upstairs and into thousands of kitchens every day. While all of that was scaling up, one man had already solved the entire problem, and almost nobody wanted the answer. Florida physician John Gorrie had been trying to cool hospital rooms for yellow fever patients, and along the way, he built a machine that made ice mechanically, with no pond required. In 1847, he proved it worked in the most Florida way possible. He served guests ice-cooled champagne in the middle of a Florida summer. In 1851, he was granted a U.S. patent for it. The press's response was to call him a fraud. The New York Globe reportedly wrote, "There is a Dr. Gorrie, a crank down in Florida, who thinks he can make ice as good as God Almighty." Some accounts say figures in the ice trade helped plant that ridicule to protect their business. Careful histories do not confirm who drove it, so treat that as rumor, not fact. What is confirmed, his business partner died, his debts reportedly reached around $6,000, something like $200,000 today, and Gorrie died in 1855, his reputation in ruins, having never seen his machine succeed commercially. Here's the part that should make you angry on his behalf. For decades, the natural ice industry marketed itself as the safe, pure choice and manufactured ice as somehow unnatural, suspect. But natural ice was being cut from lakes and rivers, running straight through industrial cities, increasingly visibly polluted water. Machine-made ice had no contamination problem at all. The dirty one was the pond. In 1911, the natural ice industry made it official, forming the Natural Ice Association of America and selling a certified natural label, an early ancestor of today's organic certification marketing. The man mocked as a crank had built the actually clean version. The industry that marketed his kind of ice as suspect kept selling the riskier version with a label proclaiming its purity. Gorrie's idea didn't die with him. Vapor compression cooling had actually been patented earlier in 1834 by American engineer Jacob Perkins, and in the late 1800s German engineer Carl von Linde refined gas liquefaction into something genuinely practical. The machine kept improving quietly for decades, while the ice wagons kept rolling. Then it crossed a line nobody announced. By 1914, machine-made ice, 26 million tons a year, had already overtaken the natural harvest at 24 million tons. The machine had won the entire industry, years before most kitchens had anything electric in them at all. Electric refrigerators for the home showed up as early as the 1910s, but as pure luxury. One 1913 unit simply bolted a cooling motor onto a normal icebox. Mass production began in 1918. In 1921, when Frigidaire released its first home unit, there were only about 5,000 refrigerators in the entire United States. 2 years later, 56 different companies were making them, some using genuinely dangerous gases, ammonia and sulfur dioxide, right there in the kitchen. The breakthrough was General Electric's 1927 Monitor Top, nicknamed for a compressor shaped like the gun turret of a Civil War ironclad. It launched at $525, something like $9,000 today, but fell to $200 within a few years. GE had sold 50,000 units by 1929 and kept selling straight through the Depression. After that, adoption moved faster than almost any appliance before it. In 1930, only about 8% of American homes had a refrigerator, 1 in 12. By 1939, it was 44%. By 1944, 85%, better than 5 homes out of 6. 14 years, and the icebox went from standard to obsolete. The ice trade didn't vanish overnight. A few operations, like the one supplying railroad cars out of Truckee, California, kept cutting natural lake ice into the 1920s. But by the late 1950s, a stranger delivering frozen lake water to your kitchen door was already a memory. And a job that had employed tens of thousands of men for over a century was simply gone. Open your refrigerator again. That waiting cold took more than a century to build, from ice pits dug into a desert to a machine so good It erased an entire profession within one generation. Gorry died broke before his machine ever succeeded commercially. The trade that called his kind of ice suspect kept selling you the version actually more likely to make you sick. So the next time something simply works, remember, somebody once had to make it work badly, expensively, and long before anyone wanted it.